Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right, but someone in power just couldn't stand to see you succeed? It's a painful, confusing place to be. Today, we're diving into one of history's most dramatic stories of jealousy and power, a tale that feels as real today as it did thousands of years ago. The story of King Saul and the young hero David. Picture this. Israel is celebrating. A giant, a fearsome warrior named Goliath had terrorized the nation, and no soldier dared to face him. Then, out of nowhere, a young shepherd boy named David, armed with just a sling and 5 smooth stones, steps forward. With unwavering faith, he defeats the giant, and overnight he becomes a national hero. The streets are filled with singing and dancing. You can almost hear the song that echoed through the kingdom. Saul has slain his thousands and David his tens of thousands. For David, this must have been an incredible moment. He was just a boy, and now he was the talk of the entire nation. But for King Saul, sitting on his throne, these words were not music to his ears. They were like poison. The cheers for David were a direct blow to his ego. He, the king, was being overshadowed by a shepherd. That little song planted a seed of jealousy in Saul's heart, a seed that would grow into a dark and consuming obsession. From that day on, Saul looked at David with suspicion. He saw not a loyal servant, not a hero who had saved his kingdom, but a rival, a threat to his throne. It's a powerful lesson in how envy can warp our perception. Saul had been chosen by God, he was the king, he had everything. Yet the success of another made him feel like he had nothing. Initially, Saul tried to keep David close, making him a commander in his army. It was a classic case of, keep your friends close, and your enemies closer. David excelled in everything he did. He was a brilliant military leader, wise, and incredibly popular with the people. And the more successful David became, the more Saul's jealousy festered. The Bible tells us that an evil spirit began to torment Saul, filling his mind with paranoia and rage. This is where the story takes a terrifying turn. One day David is in the palace, playing his harp to soothe the troubled king, just as he had done many times before. It was a moment of peace, a melody meant to bring comfort. But Saul, consumed by his inner demons, saw his opportunity. In a fit of rage, he grabbed his spear and hurled it at David, intending to pin him to the wall. Can you imagine the shock? David, just a moment ago trying to help, now had to duck for his life. The very man he was serving was trying to kill him. Miraculously, David dodged the spear not just once but twice. It became clear to David that the palace was no longer a safe place. The king's favor had turned into a deadly threat. Saul's hatred became more public and strategic. He offered David his daughter, Michal, in marriage, but it wasn't a gesture of kindness. It was a trap. The dowry he demanded was 100 slain Philistines, a task so dangerous Saul hoped David would be killed in the attempt. But again, David succeeded, returning not with 100, but 200. He married Michal, and his connection to the royal family only grew, infuriating Saul even more. The love between David and Saul's own children is a beautiful and tragic part of this story. Saul's son, Jonathan, loved David like a brother. Their bond was one of the purest friendships in history. Jonathan saw David's goodness and knew he was destined for greatness. He repeatedly risked his own life to warn David of his father's plots. He would tell David, "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you." Jonathan was caught between his loyalty to his father, the king, and his love for his best friend. Even Saul's daughter, Michal, who was now David's wife, chose to protect him. One night Saul sent assassins to David's house. Michal, learning of the plot, helped David escape through a window. She then cleverly placed a statue in his bed, covered it with a blanket, and told her father's men that David was sick. Her quick thinking bought David the precious time he needed to flee. So, David became a fugitive. The celebrated hero who had saved the nation was now running for his life, hiding in caves and desolate wilderness. He was forced to leave behind his home, his wife, and his best friend. He went from the king's palace to the lonely life of an outlaw, all because of one man's uncontrollable jealousy. David's journey as a fugitive is a story of its own. He gathered a band of loyal followers, misfits, outcasts, and those in debt, and formed a small army. Even in exile, David's character shone. He showed incredible restraint and integrity. On 2 separate occasions, David had the perfect opportunity to end his ordeal. He found Saul vulnerable and asleep in a cave, and later, in his own camp. His men urged him, "This is your chance. God has delivered your enemy into your hand." But David refused. He secretly cut off a corner of Saul's robe in the cave, but even that small act troubled his conscience. Later, he simply took Saul's spear and water jug from beside his sleeping head. Both times, from a safe distance, he called out to Saul, showing him the proof that he could have taken his life but chose not to. David's reasoning was profound. "I will not lay a hand on the Lord's anointed." He respected the office of the king, even when the man in that office was hunting him. He trusted that justice was in God's hands, not his own. This story is more than just an ancient drama. It's a powerful reflection on human nature. It shows us the destructive power of jealousy and how it can poison even the most powerful person. It highlights the pain of being misunderstood and unfairly targeted. But most importantly, it shows us the strength of character, faith, and integrity in the face of immense adversity. David's flight wasn't just about survival. It was a period of intense testing that shaped him into the great king he was destined to become. He learned leadership, patience, and a deep reliance on his faith, not on his own strength or schemes. It teaches us that even when we are running, hiding, or feel completely alone, our character is being forged. Our response to injustice defines us more than the injustice itself. David chose mercy over revenge, faith over fear, and integrity over opportunity. And that is why his story continues to inspire us today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. I hope this story gave you something to think about. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next one. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and stay inspired.